Hello everybody, my name is Paulo Porfírio and I'm a very experienced information security management professional with more than 20 years of experience implementing and auditing systems around the United States and also in Europe and Asia. Now, as a 27001 lead auditor, I have more than 1,350 audit days in my bag, auditing companies, certifying companies as a third-party auditor, as well as an external auditor working for registrars. Companies like Microsoft, Baker Hughes, Fidelity, Toshiba, Mitsubishi, Volvo, and so forth. As a 27001 lead implementer, as well as 27701, I help more than 50 companies in US and Europe to get certified against those standards. Now, I'm very passionate about protecting data, managing risks, and making sure that the security of the data and sensitive information, sometimes privacy information and other various types of very sensitive information is properly protected and the company is well fit to face the dangers and the threats of living in the digital world nowadays. And what is information security? In the today's digital world is about protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the information. And information nowadays is the most important asset in the organization. Information allows the organization to make decisions, to provide services, to manufacture products, and all those other activities that the organizations need to conduct to achieve their business objectives. Okay? So, and what is information security? What factors are contributing to the information security? We can talk about data protection, which is the way you protect your data. When it comes to information, you might have data without having information, and it's about the controls that you have around that data. Cybersecurity, we're going to talk about information security out there in the internet and how to protect your infrastructure against all those hacks and attacks and other threats. Authentication and authorization, which means how you control the way people identify themselves and access your assets within your organization, how you authenticate them. So how you manage users, profiles, IDs within the organization, and how you guys keep the bad guys out. Network security. Network security is a very important concept and factor when we talk about information security, because a good secure infrastructure starts with a proper network architecture. So network security and all that involves monitoring and traffic inspection and all that is very important when you talk about information security. Cloud security. So if you provide services in the cloud, or more than that, if you use services from the cloud service providers, you want to make sure that they provide a secure service. Depending on the business model, you also need to put some controls in place when it comes to cloud services. Mobile device security, we're talking about the endpoints, mobile endpoints, smartphones, laptops, tablets, all those mobile endpoints that you guys may use to access your infrastructure and your assets. So social engineering awareness. So nowadays, phishing attacks, social engineering is on the table. It's a very big concern amongst IT professionals, how to fight against those threats. Training and awareness, so people are aware of what to do when they face a threat like that. Compliance and regulations, yes, is a very regulated industry out there when it comes to banking, financial, educational, utilities, telco, IT services. When you collect, depending on the type of information you collect, if you collect PII, HPI, and all sorts of very sensitive information, Depending also on your geographic location, you might have to comply with legal, regulatory, and also contractual requirements. Let's not forget about those. Instant response. How to be prepared to respond to an incident that can impact the service you provide to customers, and more than that, impact the confidentiality or integrity of your customer data. So it's all about putting teams in place and training them and process in place to respond to such situations. Okay, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Yes, it's a new threat out there. AI can be very powerful for good and for bad. So it's all about protecting and preparing for that new threat out there. Internet of Things. Nowadays, even our refrigerator has access to the internet. Our monitoring cameras out there have access to the internet. So you need to protect all those devices, endpoints in your infrastructure as well. Zero Trust Security. So when we talk about zero-day threats and all those new threats out there that come out in the wild, you need to be prepared. You need to be aware of what's going on out there and gather all the threat intelligence that you can to be able to prepare yourself to those situations. Supply chain security. Yes, everybody remembers what happened with SolarWinds. Nowadays, you can trust anyone, including the supposedly trustful service providers and vendors and suppliers. So it's all about selecting, vetting, monitoring, and evaluating your vendors and putting the right controls in place. Privacy protection. The last version of 27001 comes with some controls to protect privacy, so private information. Every company out there nowadays, especially the ones that deal with the end customer, collect some sort of PII, which is protected by law in almost every geographic locations in US, Canada, Europe, and some countries in Asia. And this is something that companies need to deal with, right? Employee training and awareness. Well, when it comes to threats and attacks and hacks, they all have one thing in common. There's someone behind the screen launching the attack, okay, pushing the button, and doing something that's might be impactful to your organization. So, and when it comes to an awareness environment within your organization, you can have a police officer over the shoulder of every employee, right? So you need to have a security culture embedded in the organization, and think before you click, right? Those are the factors that you need to think about when you plan for a global overall information security program in your organization. A system that is going to manage information security, that's going to protect the way you protect confidentiality, integrity, and the availability of your confidential information in your organization. To understand what a 27001 is, we need to understand what a management system is. So, a management system is published by the ISO organization, International Organization for Standardization, and all those management systems, they provide a framework for organizations to establish and maintain processes and procedures that they're going to use to achieve specific business objectives. Okay. Now, I'm sure some of you at least have heard about 9001, 14,000, 22,000. They all belong to the same family of management systems that ISO published and managed. Okay. Now, those are international standards against which every single organization in the whole world can certify against. Okay. Now, We can talk a little bit about some key concepts that are behind every single management system out there. The plan, do, check, act cycle. We first plan, then we implement what we plan and operate the system. Then we check, we monitor, we measure, and then we review, and then we act upon what we measured, we reviewed, we checked. Process approach. So those management systems are based on processes. So when you certify it against 27001, you're going to certify your internal processes that you guys use to manage information security. You're not going to certify a location, a geographic location, a data center, a physical location. You're not going to certify a product. You're not going to certify a software, a hardware product, whatever. You're going to certify the process that you guys use to manage information security. Leadership and commitment are a key concept, a key factor, I should say, in any management system. Without leadership without a strong leadership commitment and middle management, it's very difficult to implement these kind of systems because they are horizontal in the organization. Context of the organization, meaning you first need to understand what is the scope of your system, of your ISMS, Information Security Management System. That's what you put in place when you talk about 27001. Okay? 27001 is a risk-based standard, as all the other management systems, and which means that you need to evaluate, assess, and treat the risks that can impact your assets, your information. Now, interest parties are a very key component, like we said before. Selecting, vetting, monitoring the right vendors is a key activity for you to make sure that you can provide a good service to your customers. Right? Objectives and metrics. Yes, every management system is or should be measured, and so you can say, yes, I achieved my objectives, my business goals, my business objectives with this system. Because if a management system doesn't add value to your product, to your service, then it's useless. Documentation and record keeping. That's something that every management system requires you to do. Control documents, control records. Continual improvement. That's a basic concept in every single management system out there. The management systems are built, designed to, that's the PDCA cycle, right? The ACT is the continual improvement. So it's designed to improve itself over time, right? Manage review, that's something you need to put in place. Management is ultimately the risk owner in your organization, so they need to, top management needs to be committed with the system, provide resources, review the system, and establish the overall strategy for the system. Competence and training. Yes, like we said before, training and awareness is very important in every single management system, so people are aware of what's going on and they can respond to any situation that they may confront. Communication is a very important part of every management system as well. You need to communicate above and downward in your, let's say, supply chain. Legal and regulatory compliance, we already discussed that. It's a very good, very important, I should say, input in your risk assessment, because every single management system requires you to strictly comply with all legal, regulatory, and contractual requirements, by the way. Finally, customer focus. If the management system that you guys are trying to implement doesn't add value, doesn't help you in achieving your business objectives, then something is wrong. It should be simple to manage, add value to your business objectives and help you to achieve those, in fact. Okay? Finally, what is 27001? Okay? It's a management system, international management system, and is globally recognized around the world as a standard for information security management system, ISMS. The purpose of 27001 is for organizations to establish, implement, maintain, operate, and continuously improve an ISMS, Information Security Management System. So it's going to help you to manage risks and protect sensitive information from unauthorized access, disclosure, alteration, or destruction. So it's going to be a tool or a framework for managing and protecting sensitive data. Okay? It was built for you to assess the risks that can impact your confidential data and information and treat those risks. So what are the steps to implement an ISO 27001? Step number one, and this is very important, this is the key step. I would say one of the most important steps in your project, establishing the right scope for the ISMS. So are you going to scope the whole organization? Probably not, because you don't need to certify the whole organization when only a subset of your teams and activities deals with customer information. So you need to make sure you choose the right scope. The idea is to narrow the scope as much as possible because it costs resources and time and money to the company to get certified. So choose the right scope and narrow the scope as much as possible, but to a point where it still makes sense to your stakeholders, and especially to your customers. Okay? Put yourself in their shoes. What would be the scope that I would want from that company, from that provides me service X, Y, and Z, and see what they would like you to do. So establishing the right scope is halfway to succeed. I found companies in the past that were struggling because they started with the wrong scope. They scoped everything. And then it became very complex, very difficult, and very costful. So they were stuck in the middle of the project without moving because the scope was like too big. So make sure you discuss internally what makes sense to you for your scope. Maybe it's a specific service that you provide to a specific customer because that's the customer that is requiring you to get certified, right? Or a certain location, geographic location, or the services that you provide to a certain group of customers, or the services where you collect sensitive information. So make sure you scope your system properly. The better you scope your system, the more effective it will be, adding more value to your services and helping you in achieving your business objectives. Risk assessment. Prepare for the risk assessment. So that's step number 2, preparation for the risk assessment. That involves listing your assets, information assets, threats and vulnerabilities that can affect those assets, assessing those risks. Step number 3, treating those risks. What are you going to do about them? Okay? Now, there are several risk assessment methodologies out there. The standard says you can pick one as long as it produces systematic and comparable results. Okay? Then you need to put in place controls to control your documentation. Every single management system, not only 27001, this is across all management systems, you need to have controls in place to control your documents, versions, dates, owners. Then training and awareness, you need to prepare an internal training and awareness program to train people in your organization. Then you need to start implementing the system, right? And that means putting in place policies, process, procedures, controls that you chose during the risk assessment phase, right? And put them in place, okay? Also, assigning responsibilities, establishing an internal InfoSec organization, someone or an office or a team that is going to be responsible for that ISMS system, which is critical, right? Then you need to plan internal audits. Step number 6, internal audit, because the standard requires you to conduct internal audits, certification audit, and finally the certification, right? And all of that can take up to a few months to implement, plan, implement, start operating, and also collecting evidences, because after implementing the system, you need to give it some time to generate evidences, because that's exactly what the auditors will look into. Evidences, they need to look into the evidences, right? So then you have internal audit, then you have the external certification audit, which is split in 2 steps, phase number 1, stage number 1, and stage number 2, okay? And that's pretty much it. Now last but not least, a final word for 27701, okay? Now 27701 was a standard that was published by ISO back in 2019 as a response to GDPR in Europe. Now when GDPR came out, it was a big, it made a big splash around the world, because it was a very tight set of controls to protect PII in Europe within EU. Now, until then, there was nothing you could show your stakeholders that you actually protect their privacy, their private information. So, and ISO, since ISO launched GDPR became the international benchmark, right? Like that other privacy protection frameworks and laws around the world actually follow or inspire, get inspiration from. And it set the main controls and requirements to protect PII at the time, okay? Now, 27701 was built upon 27001, so you cannot have 27701 without 27001. So 27001 is for protecting information security, right? So protecting information. And 27701 is nothing but a specific 27001 focused on privacy. Yeah, makes sense? Okay. So it's nothing but a couple of additional controls and GDPR requirements, right? Which means that if you implement a 27701 standard system in your organization, you are very well prepared to respond to GDPR, but not only to GDPR, also to other frameworks and laws and regulations along the world. Because, like I said, most of them got their inspiration from GDPR anyway, right? So it's a standard. It belongs to that management systems family that we spoke about, that focus on protecting privacy information, okay? So some key concepts of 27701 are privacy principles. So when you build that system, when you implement that system, you need to have privacy principles as a requirement in your system, okay? Legal regulatory compliance, you have GDPR in Europe, PIPEDA in Canada, which is being reviewed right now, UK, GDPR or DPA, Data Privacy Act that they have in UK, which is also being reviewed, LGPD in Brazil, and other laws around the world that protect private information. So If you're an international company that reaches multiple countries around out there, you need to worry about compliance with not only those, but obviously those as well, frameworks, laws, and regulations that require you to comply and protecting privacy information. Okay. So risk management, it follows the same approach as 27001. There you go. Data protection controls. So this means that out of those controls that you implement in 27001, there are a few additional requirements that you need to comply with or follow or put in place, right? Data subject rights. The right to know, the right to be deleted, the right to be changed, and all those rights that GDPR, CCPA in the United States, and by the way, there are a lot of states out there that are launching their own privacy protection laws. There were 5 of them last year in 2023, more to come. So this is a kind of a landscape that you need to look into and see which ones you need to comply with, you must comply with, which ones you don't, and be prepared for that. So 27701, if you are in one of those organizations that have to comply with a lot of those laws and regulations, 27701 will be a fantastic starting point that will allow you to build a governance program to protect privacy and comply with national and international laws. Third-party management, because most probably you're going to trust third parties with the PII that you are responsible for. Okay, and finally, privacy by design and default, which is a principle that you need to, you should apply when you're developing systems, applications, features, and software. Okay, so wrapping up, this is 27001, 27701, what they are, what they can do for you, and what I can do for you is help you to plan, scope your system, plan your system, implement your system, operate your system, measure your system, and continuously improve your system to get certified and show your stakeholders that you follow the best principles and you have a secure environment in your organization. See you in the next video.